This is Three Dog.
How can I help?
The most anticipated game of the year, Fallout 4. It is literally around the corner, and to celebrate getting dropped back into that dystopian love letter, we're talking with the voice you will hear a lot of. Brian T. Delaney, voicing the protagonist of Fallout 4, Sole Survivor. Brian, thank you so much for joining the program.
Thanks for having me.
I'd love a little sneak peek of the character. If you don't mind, could you give us a little taste of the voice of the Sole Survivor?
Hey, Andy, I don't appreciate you putting me on the spot like this, all right? Let's not do these deals, all right? Okay?
All right, so I'd love
500 caps, and I'll do your song and dance, all right, pal? That's kind of a taste.
That's it. That's the take. Well, thank you, everyone. A round of applause, everyone. That's.
Did you want to like one of the lines that's been released, or did you want because all I did was I did a little improv. That's all I did.
Well, that was dynamite. I'd love to know. Well, yeah. How did you land on that little beauty when it was going to be the voice of such hopefully an iconic character in video gamedom?
How did I land on? You mean the tone and the delivery?
Yeah. How'd you get to that? Where was the process there?
Honestly, when I auditioned, I just auditioned as the voice you're hearing, really, but it's under the specific circumstances of what Fallout 4 offers. So the audition script was just so well written that the music of the lines just kind of jumped out at me. So, they gave very vague description of the circumstances, but based on the copy that I received, I used my own voice, and that's for the most part what you'll hear. I mean, given the circumstances, the road weary version, I'm comfortable. I'm hanging with you. You sound like an awesome dude. I'm really comfortable. I'm in my home studio, so. I'm a little jovial. I'm kind of getting pumped. My heart's palpitating.
Yeah.
It's only eight days away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty relaxed and footloose and fancy free. But when you load in, with the help of my voice director, Kal-El Bogdanov, when you load in the circumstances, it can get pretty gritty, pretty dark, pretty.
Yeah. We talked about it there. We're looking back. A game in about a week, millions and millions of people will be in your shoes. They will be playing you. Looking back, man, how was this ride to be, such an iconic voice in a game like this?
Well, it's kind of unique in this sense because, and not to flip the script and get argumentative with you, but they're not playing me. I am merely a mouthpiece for who they are. They're playing whatever role they choose. So it's not necessarily with this particular game. There's no iconic face. It's not like Uncharted's Nathan Drake. It's not like you can see a picture of Joel from The Last of Us and say, "Oh, that's The Last of Us." This is unique in the sense that myself and Courtney Taylor, who's my wife in the game, my female counterpart. They're just Todd Howard and the gang at Bethesda just decided to, take it to the next level and add a voice. It does add some specificity, and it may seem like it's limiting, but there's a depth of emotion, a depth of an experiential depth, as it were, that the guys and gals at Bethesda were trying to achieve. So, I mean, it's strange. I hear what you're saying. It's an iconic franchise. It's an iconic game. But in a weird way, I don't see myself as an iconic character per se, because for as many gamers out there who get the game and they play, that's how many different kinds of player characters there are. So it's kind of a weird kind of situation. It's kind of a nice pocket to be in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but where do you keep that? How do you keep that in mind when you are providing the voice work for a character like this? Because like you said, it's a different way to look at it. Did you come to the work kind of thinking, I need to provide a lot of nuanced options so that people can get that experience they want?
What's beautiful about it is I voiced the nuanced options, but I didn't invent them. Bethesda, the writing staff, led by Male Pagliarulo, Will Shen, a guy named Brian Chapin. I'm forgetting a whole bunch of names, and please forgive me, guys. They wrote so well that it was that was like a lot of the road. And then my voice director, Cal Bogdanov, I'll just call him Cal. It's a mouthful. By the way, his name's Kal-El, as in son of Jor-El, who is Superman. That was when I first met him. I'm like, oh, Cal, like Calvin. He goes, no, it's actually Kal-El. And I'm like, what? Anyway, between the great writing and Cal's voice direction, it was really a beautiful dance of those elements. And we were specific when we needed to be. We were specific, and we had a lot of fun with the lines when we could be. And there were those lines that, they had to be the kind of lines that if the gamer is going to hear them 64 million times, they were as specific as you can get, but not too specific, so they're annoying. You know what I mean? You ever played those games?
Oh, yeah. Just trying to find a door. What is it in this game? Like, what's something you can think of was a phrase that you had to say multiple times just because it is a game and we got to find certain things. Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, the simplest one is greetings, because there's like every fifth or sixth session, and there was like 50 of them. There was always greetings, and they always had like, hey, character name. Or, for instance, Piper. Piper is an NPC that's been released. That's kind of like free to talk about. So I'd be like, hey, Piper, or hey, Piper, blah 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 blah. Well, I would do the takes, and I would give a different hey. Sometimes it was just hey. In fact, there was one day where there was like 5 to 10 just the word hey. And they needed coverage on it for like, distance, hey, that kind of thing. And okay. I wanted to give it like nuance, like Marlon Brando method acting. And Cal had to like, hey, Bri, I get what you're doing. They're going to hear this a million times. So we don't want to hit them over the head with it too much with like specificity. So, it just became, at one point, 2 years in or a year in, he goes, Bri, you know how to do these. Okay, go. So I go, hey, Piper, hey. And that was it. Like, I couldn't add anything else because I was adding, hey, and that would be so annoying to people if they had to hear that all the time. So that's probably the best example. It's the simplest example, but that's the long and the short of it, really.
How did you, we're going back now, how did you first get involved in this? Because again, the world really hasn't known about this game except for the last, few months. Back in June in E3, they talked about it. And that's when, I guess, finally you could tell the world that you're doing this. But how did this first fall into your lap and how long you've been at it?
At this particular, on this particular project?
Yeah, with just
voice acting in general.
We'll start just specifically with Fallout 4.
Well, it's how any project comes across my music stand underneath my mic. I auditioned for it, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I knew it was a player role because that's what it said as a footnote on the bottom of the audition materials, the copy. But I didn't know what the game was. I didn't know, I honest to God, when I booked the job, my first day of work, I didn't even know what it was. And even after they told me, I had never played it or heard of it. But I auditioned for it. And like I told you, the writing was so good. I'm like, oh man, I just remember thinking, oh wow, man, I really loved this writing. And this is one that I'm going to tuck in the back of my head. I hope I go to the next phase on this. Hopefully I'll get a call back. So I auditioned. It was like any other job in voiceover. I auditioned for it. I didn't know how I did. It's like every other thing. You just you're on to the next audition. You don't dwell on it. And then my agent at CESD Talent Agency in LA, Pat Brady, she calls me up. She informs me that I have a call back for it. that was exciting. She says, I'm sending you the copy again. Lay another takedown. Let me know. Call me back. And it was, I just did it again, and it was more wonderful dialogue written wonderfully by the writing staff of Bethesda. It was great. And I booked the job a couple days later. My first, oh man, I kept saying it over and over again. I think my first day of work, I could be contradicting myself, so forgive me out there. I think I booked the job the first week of July 2013, and my first day of work was July 9th, 2013. And my last day of work, I think, was August 12th of this year.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was a great ride, man. It was pretty awesome.
Is that, is that common to be on a project for this long and
not to me?
Yeah, well, I don't think a lot. I talked to a few of you guys, and it didn't seem to be that the projects you're on it for this long and have to be so unbelievably secretive, because everyone was wanting this game. Everyone wants to know everything about it.
I know. It was crazy. After I booked the job, I obviously learned everything I could learn from, an online search over and over again about Fallout. And I started to discover, people were really curious, really interested. They wanted to know when the next Fallout game was coming out. And I was just like, oh boy, yeah. It was kind of exciting. So, that was kind of neat. I mean, it wasn't terribly hard for me in the beginning to keep the secret. But once the ramp up toward E3 2015, where Bethesda had that awesome press conference at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood, man, it was off the hook. It was great. It was I was starting to get, I was starting chomping at the bit and I wonder if they're gonna, yeah. So they really gave us a gift, by the way, because that was June 14th was their specific press conference, and then I think it was June 17th. They gave us a gift of releasing our names, myself and Courtney Taylor. And ever since then, it's been quite a ride. Quite a ride.
What's happened since that point?
I've never had interaction with a video game franchise fan base before. And the Fallout.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I was anonymous. I've been voice acting for about 6 or 7 years now, and I had never been on a project of this magnitude. I had never been on a. It was just amazing. It was just amazing. It was 2.5 or a little over 2 years of working on this thing and getting to do 10,000 plus lines. Basically, I got cast in a role. Where I got to be put in as many situations as humanly possible, given the data limits of what a video game can be in 2015, and it was just incredible. I've never had this opportunity to be, as it became known with Cal. This is A button guy. This is B button guy. Okay, this is an X button guy. So you can. This is just a question. So it's just kind of cool. With every situation, with every kind of interaction, with every kind of NPC, every kind of, passerby, there was like 4 options on this controller. And it was just incredible. It's just incredible. I feel very, 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 very lucky to be a part of this.
Do you recall what the different kind of character nuances were for those different buttons? Because if it was as simple as this is now an X, you're an X type of guy now. Do you remember what was diplomatic? What was perhaps more threatening? Love to know a little bit more about how you had to bounce back and forth. That you can share, obviously.
I think I can. Yeah, I think I can. I'm very nervous because Bethesda's been pretty locked up tight for a reason, and it's been a wonderful thing. But I think I can say that.
So again, how does the game end?
Well, Rosebud's a sled. He finds the sled, and he travels home. No,
go ahead. Sorry,
I think A button guy. No, it's cool. A button guy is. I'll be diplomatic. I'll be vague but specific. I'll be dichotomous. A button guy is just that straightforward guy. And honest to God, I'm giving these generalities. There's even nuance within the button itself, but generally can be either positive, could be either diplomatic, Could be straightforward, could be just, positive is too specific of a word because it's not always positive, but B button guy, at some points it could be, Cal would say, put a little Eastwood on this one. You know what I mean? Put a little Eastwood on this one. And it was kind of cool.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. X button was kind of, it could either be the vacillating guy, the wise ass guy, kind of like a flippant remark, kind of dicky. B button could also be dicky, but a threatening dick, where X button is kind of like just a douchey dick or a funny guy or, a guy that doesn't want to answer the question. And the Y button is questions, which I think is pretty well known to gamers, I think. But yeah, that's the general breakdown, I think.
And did you find yourself, having to just be in one? Because again, I'd love to know a little bit about this process. We don't know exactly what your day-to-day was. So if you could just take us into that, what it would be like.
Oh, sure.
What it would be like to be a voice actor working on Fallout 4.
Well, let's go back 2 years.
I'll put in the effects.
We'll do the Scooby-Doo, the Wayne's World Scooby-Doo ending effect. You go back to my first day of work, which was, July 2013. I think it was like a Thursday or a Friday. Can't remember now what day of the week. And I show up and I'm like really excited. I remember feeling really, really frustrated because I was just getting over kind of like a sinus thing. And I was so angry on the ride there. I was just like slapping my face, pounding my head, punching myself in the forehead, going, clear up. Because I knew the gravity of, the level of the role. I didn't know the project. So I show up and Cal's there my first day. And, the engineer, the coordinator from, that keeps the notes on all the takes that they send up to Bethesda. And I get behind the mic and I'm pretty sure my first line was, "Okay, Brian, we're just going to start into it." And I was in the room. First of all, you're in a booth. Sometimes booths are smaller than this. Sometimes they're bigger than this. But basically, we're looking at a room that's, 15 feet by 6 feet, something like that. And there's, the big glass pane, like I feel like a goldfish in a bowl. And there's a television screen with the lines scrolling up. There's a microphone. I'm comfortable. It's awesome. Cal's there. And I'm praying to God, please don't be anything like nuanced, deep, emotional stuff. What do we start with? War never changes. And I'm like, oh. And so I got over it. It was great. It was fine. But, we start dissecting that opening bit. And Cal walks me through it. We take it really slow. And that was my first day of work. We also did individual lines like NPC interactions and stuff like that. But that was my first day of work, and pretty much, some days were a lot of greetings. Some days were a lot of, roaming the wasteland, fulfilling quests, doubling back, making deals, everything. It's what Fallout, you kind of get a glimpse of it from, Fallout 3. There's things you have to do for people to earn caps. There's things you got to do that are shady. There's things that you got to do that can be, that could get you into moral quagmires. So all that dialogue was represented for basically how it was 4 days a week, 4 hours each day, every 4 to 6 weeks. So I'd work like, let's say, a Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, or a Monday through Thursday. They would take all that data, all those lines. They would beta test them out, play them in the game back in Maryland. And then 4 to 6 weeks later, we'd have another batch, 4 days, 4 hours each day behind the mic. And some days were a lot of, hey. Some days were huge emotional speech that I had to prep for. Cal had to really walk me through, give me a lot of background, a lot of backstory, a lot of, circumstances and motivation and stuff. And that happened until August of this year. So, I never knew what was going to happen until the minute we started recording that day. It was just every day was a new adventure. Literally, every day was a new adventure. it was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome.
Do you think that you get a real sense of what the game is all about, even though you're looking at it through such, a small little lens? You're just getting these lines. There's not a lot of connectivity. After years of this now, do you think that you kind of have a good feeling and a good understanding of what this game is going to be like for the players?
To a greater extent, no.
Really?
To a lesser extent, yes, and I'll explain. There is an arc that we'll call it like the main campaign or the main, to use actor speak, the super objective that always grounded the role I was playing. No matter how nihilistic the line, or no matter how all-American hero the line, badass the line, douchebag the line, whatever. Helping, hurting, making moral decisions that sometimes weren't so savory. There was always this one thing, this one aspect of the game that I feel closest to. And of course, I know certain things that Bethesda won't even release because they are really doing the fans, not just the fans, but the world at large, a favor by holding back a lot of this information. But trust me when I tell you and everybody who's listening to this, you don't want to ruin it. I mean, who wants to go into a movie, whether it's, like I joked about Citizen Kane or, Chinatown, Sister and My Daughter. Like, who wants to know that? Who wants to know the end? Who wants to know the end of Sixth Sense? Who wants to know the end of The Usual Suspects going into the movie? The ride's going to be you're going to take that excitement off the ride and that unknown factor. So it really is kind of like a favor that Bethesda's doing by really locking it up and keeping it under lock and key, this element. So that's the lesser where I say, yes, I do believe I have some sense. And believe me, it's not even that exhaustive, only because I haven't really talked to all the people. I was behind a mic. I never worked with Courtney, not one day. I never worked with another NPC. My scene partner every day was Kal-El Bogdanov. That's it. So there's even certain aspects of that kind of like that main grounding storyline that I can't wait to sink my teeth into as a player, as a gamer. Now, to a greater extent, my answer was no. And it's linked to what I just said. I have no idea. What having Preston Garvey as a companion is going to be like. I have no idea the true depth of all the quests. Honest to God, when you joked in the beginning of this line of questioning, can you tell us the end of the game? Like, I don't know the end of the game. And honestly, there's an ending for each person that plays it. For each gamer, there could be a different ending. Now, I'm not saying there's 50 million endings, but there's somewhere between 1 and 50 million endings. You know what I mean?
It's a good thing you stopped that part when you were saying it, too.
I know, right? So, I mean, it's just, there's so much about this world. I only played a little bit of Fallout 3, and I only played a little bit of Fallout 3, honest to God, 2 years into the process. Mm-hmm. I didn't play any Fallout 3 or any Fallout New Vegas or any Fallout anything for a large chunk of my particular process. So, Cal convinced me, by the way, because as we got into the middle of it, I kind of asked him, I'm like, wow, man, this is really, really intense, and this is really something. And I guess, would it have benefited me to, play a little? He goes, no, it's great that you came in cold. You didn't have any preconceived notions. You were easy to mold. You were really, really, you bounced back and forth. You went up and down, and you didn't have any sort of like things weighing you down with regard to preconceived notions. So he thought that was good. But like, I don't know what the world of Fallout 4 is. I didn't even see any images until E3. I didn't know the color scheme. I didn't know how beautiful the horizons were, how blue the sky was, how beautiful those cirrus clouds were. That detail, I had no clue that it was going to be that rich and that beautiful, and that the world would be that detailed and that sharp. It's just, I'm really excited to play. Oh,
there you go. Really excited to play. I love you mentioned it there that you had a lot of the ups and downs. You know, that was what you were supposed to do. You were brought in here to convey different sort of experiences. Is there anything that you can recall that you would just think of when you're in that booth saying like, wow, this is one of the most devious, dubious things this guy is saying. And then to juxtapose that, an instance where, you know, all-American hero, like what you mentioned there, where this guy is being truly, truly noble.
Forgive me, like, are you asking how was that to jump from that?
Were there instances like that? Did you find yourself that happening? And do you remember anything about it that you can share without any of the specifics?
You know, I can't. Obviously, I can't. I don't even think I can remember the exact lines or anything. Yeah. But I don't even think I can give you the situations. But yes, there were instances like that where, and to tell you the truth, that's one of the great things as a performer, as an actor, a voice actor that booked this particular or one half of the player role. Mm-hmm. It was kind of exciting. I'm a performer that always loves different takes. I'm always willing to give one more take. I'm always willing to give a take that is, really out there. I'm always willing to give a take that's, okay, I like what you did, Brian. Do the direct opposite and scare the crap out of me. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, great. Yes. So, I mean, I enjoyed that part of the process. I enjoyed that a lot. And there were instances where, let's see if I can paraphrase one without giving spoilers, because I don't want to give spoilers.
Of course.
I'll use just generic lines, like open lines. For instance, come on, we can work this out. Or, I'm going to fucking kill you. Or, hey man, I don't want any trouble. Or, what are you talking about? Like, that would be kind of like a very generic kind of way where
he's having a tough day. He's having a tough day.
Yeah. I mean, you could be diplomatic, hero guy, wants everybody to live. You could be the guy that's, you know what? I got shit to do. I am going to disintegrate every last one of you motherfuckers. Then there's the guy that's like, hey man, let's just chill out a little bit. By the way, chill out was never used in the game. But just so you know, chill out was not necessarily used in the game. But yeah, you could be the guy that's just like smart ass guy, like, just a guy that like isn't being positive, isn't necessarily being negative, but just wants to get the F out of Dodge. And then there's the guy that says, asks the question. Sometimes it's a question where actually, in the E3 gameplay demo where the Vault Tech salesman comes to the door and he goes, hello, would you like a Vault? Whatever he says. And I say, remind me again. That would be kind of like, I think, I'm not even certain of this, but that would be an example of, when you return to a situation and you may have done it before, but it was just like 12 hours in your gameplay or, 6 months in the game or whatever. And you have those questions. Sometimes it's as simple and as nondescript as, can you remind me what we're talking about? Where was that thing again? What did you want me to do? I can't remember. Like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an anecdote that's vague but funny at the time.
There we go.
I'd be going back to an NPC and it would be like their life is falling apart and they'd ask me about something and I'd have to give the remind me again button. And it'd be like, oh, Cal, I feel so callous. I don't remember. They look like they're dying. Like, and I have to say, can you remind me again? Like, I'd either say it like, what are you talking about? Or, the subtext would be, I'm so sorry that I'm asking, but can you remind me? But it would sound better than that. Like, it would sound like, remind me again what we're talking about. Mm. So it was kind of cool. It was kind of neat. But those were the times where, between what I was able to bring, what Cal was able to offer me, and what the writing was, and negotiating that was that was fun. Those were fun times, I'll tell you.
Well, it's great just chatting with you about this. You clearly have enjoyed the experience.
Oh my! It's been the job of a lifetime for me. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I haven't been a part of a project of this magnitude. In the sense that I've been additional voices. I've done some looping and some ADR and some efforts and some voice matching on big motion pictures. But it's weird. It's like from a video game standpoint, especially, I do a bulk of my work is video games, and to be able to be a part of a project like this, not just the project, it's the publisher and the game studio. Bethesda is just, they're incredible with, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the care that they put into this, the time, the hours, the effort that they put into this beautiful, you actually called it a love letter, which is funny because I've referred this dystopian love letter, I think you said at the beginning. I've called it a love letter to the fans, a love letter to gamers, a love letter to the Fallout community, like the people that love the action RPG genre, especially this very specific world, this very specific universe of the very specific lore of the Fallout universe. And it's a job of a lifetime. I mean, people keep telling me, fans of the franchise keep saying, like, how did it feel that people will be listening to your voice and Courtney's voice for the next 400 hours of their life, or the next 3 years or 5 years or however long. And that has not sunk in yet. That I don't know what that's going to look like. I have no idea. I'm very humbled by it, and I have no idea how that's going to play out. My wife is just hoping I don't get a big head about it. That's just all she.
Well, get ready for the supercuts on YouTube of every, silly or stupid thing you possibly said in that game. It's gonna be up. Get ready.
Wait, well, what is a supercut? What do you mean by that?
I mean that every instance where you make a funny sound, screaming "ow," anything like that, cut together to illustrate, the funny noise you make. Did you have, those days where you just had to say "ow" 450 different ways?
Not necessarily "ow," unless
that's a little. Yeah, I'm being a little glib there.
It's I'm not even sharpshooting you. I'm like there may have been one instance where I've said "ow," but it was usually a douchey kind of dickwad kind of "ow, asshole," like something like that. Mostly, I like doing fight efforts. They're called like fight efforts, impacts, breaths, efforts, stuff like that. Like sometimes there are times where I can do a like. But they were kind of few and far between because, there would be those instances where this is another instance where Cal has to say, "Hey, Brian, you need to tighten that up, make it real short, make it just like one burst because the players are going to hear this a lot." And so I'd have to take what I wanted to give as if it were a movie and go like, "This is just a dying line, like just go ahead, Brian, do your thing," and I go. And I die, and then I'd have to take that, right? I love the intensity that you're giving, but you need to really tighten that up and make it simple. And it would turn into, and that's all they could keep. That would be all that they could keep. So, I mean, those were instances that were funny because I was trying to find my footing with, hey, maybe I don't need to go balls to the wall every single time. You know what I mean?
Do you have any lines that you can share that you look back and just think like, man, this is one of my favorite things that I said in this game. This is something that I love to say. I remember cracking up, in the booth when it happened. And I love it. I can't wait for people to hear it.
I do have that line. I definitely have that line. I can't share it right now, but, on the flip side of the release, after like a week or two, when everybody's had a chance to really roam the wasteland of the Commonwealth, I'd be happy to share it. But I do have a few, and there's one in particular that I know it verbatim and I'll never forget it. It was actually the only line where I bet. Well, that's not true, but I'll say it for the purposes of drama. But that was the only line that I begged Cal to ask Bethesda, just give me one more shot. I got psyched out by the line because Cal was playing it up a little bit. Oh, Bri, this line, it's delicious. You're gonna sink your teeth into this one. And it got kind of built up in my head, so I overthought it, and I kind of fucked myself a little bit. So I begged, the next session, please. I will stay late if you want. Let me just do this one line again, and they gave me that shot, and it's a much better delivery. But I'll share that on the flip side of the release.
There we go.
Remember I told you, by the way, my first day of work, I was getting over like a little bit of a sinus thing. Cal said, and the engineer said, I don't hear it. You're fine. It sounds great. It sounds awesome. And there have been plenty of opportunities from my first day of work for any of that stuff to be revisited, and they didn't. So it must have sounded great. But I still said, Cal, I need another shot at that monologue. I'm not, I won't be able to sleep at night if you don't give me another shot at that monologue. Please let me have another shot at that monologue. And once again, that was in the beginning, way in the beginning, and I felt really, really frustrated with my performance that day. But they gave me another shot. We laid it all down again. I don't know if they used it or they used the original stuff, but they seemed pleased with it. So, it was just one of those things. But I do have those lines. Honestly, I won't be able to share them fast enough if anybody wants to know before the stuff is, I think, up on YouTube, and you guys will just be able to enjoy it. You'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, you believe we'll know what it is. So if we tweet to you, we'll know what it is.
I think you'll know. Yeah, I think you'll know.
Is this a generally, a kind of a funny game? Because the Fallout in this universe deals with a lot of these kind of 1950s alternative tropes to a dystopian universe. Were there times you found yourself laughing when you're saying the dialogue?
Yes. Yes. I don't consider it a funny game. If there was any, there was plenty of lines where I cracked up and I did another take and it was a serious delivery. There was an infinite number of lines where we were just having fun, or the content of the line was just hilarious, or who I was talking to and what I was saying was just a riot. In the game, I can't say that it's lighthearted. I definitely love lighthearted lines. I love to make the engineer laugh, or to make Cal or whoever is voice directing laugh, or whoever's working the board laugh, or whatever. But it's a very serious game, and if there was a funny line, we had to treat it seriously within the circumstances, within the environment, within the quest. It was very dependent on who we were talking to, what enemy we were fighting, whether the enemy became an ally or an ally became an enemy, that kind of thing. But yeah, there was there was definitely lines that were just like, oh my goodness. There was a couple times where they let me keep the laugh on because it was appropriate, where I was just incredulous and I was allowed to keep that incredulity in there, that incredulous laugh at the end of it and stuff like that. And there was also some lines that I'm definitely not allowed to talk about, and I'll be as vague as possible. There was a couple lines, there was a few lines where it was just like obviously I've stayed up all night on some controlled substance kind of thing. You know what I mean? Now I don't know where to find those lines. You'd have to play the game exhaustively to find every nook and every cranny. And I have heard it said, Todd Howard in an interview, I think it was on a panel interview he did at E3, where he has still yet to find everything, and he'll find things. I don't know if he's finding anything this week, but as of June or July, he was still finding things that, oh yeah, wow, that, the team did really good on that. I forgot that existed, or I didn't know that was there, or that kind of thing. Like, it's just, there's so much in this game, and the team just did such a great job that if you want to get 100% completion on this game, it's going to take a massive amount of time. So.
Years and years of your life.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, some of these guys and gals, they're like, they punch their card, they make sure they have their own personal vault stocked with food and water, and they're like, don't call me until November 2016. So, and that's dedication right there.
That is dedication. Well, I love, again, this process that you just were put into a booth, all this thrown at you, working with your man to try and find, the ups and downs with it. One of the first things that we get in the Fallout franchise, because people go crazy for this franchise, like it's something that's gospel to them.
I discovered, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's bigger than almost any other game for, I'd say, millions of people. This is one of the first times when we deal with anything that has to do with flirtation, with, something close to romance in any way. Was that thrown at your feet? And is that difficult when you're just in a booth by yourself trying to find, why do I care that I'm attracted to Piper and, kind of things like that?
I've performed roles where there was romance lines, or there was that kind of either a passive or active flirting or stuff like that. And this was taken taken seriously with the utmost seriousness. And when you approach a possible companion in an NPC, that possibility is there. I believe for 12 different NPCs, and with each one you have that option, you have that choice. That's something that Bethesda and Todd, the whole team, has emphasized: player freedom, player choice, and that's a part of it. Excuse me for the cough. And when those lines are approached, I honor that line. I honor that relationship. I'm true to that situation, those circumstances, and the person that, I'm speaking to. As a performer, as an actor, a trained actor, you're taught to, your mind, your experience is full of images, and whatever images that I called up, that I, brought up on demand, helped me to be truthful in that situation. And I didn't find it challenging. I didn't find it I didn't find it weird. Cal is a lovely guy. I think he's a peach. So whether he's doing a falsetto, he's doing his own voice, or he's doing it was really fun if there was a time where, he put a little grit in it. It's just like, I hope you feel the same way about me. And it was like that. I'd have to, sometimes it would be lighthearted and fun, but the take was always honoring that relationship, honoring that possibility, honoring the truth and the seriousness of the situation. So
you talked before about how Bethesda, God Howard, how this group takes this stuff really seriously. They add, another level of care. When you were voicing, like you said, so many different sort of relationships, did you notice that they kind of felt different? Did you feel that in the writing, that each one of these romanceable and flirtatious options were unique and stand alone?
Wow. That's a good question. In the moment, given what I just talked about, in the moment, they didn't feel like that was the reality of that circumstance, or that was the reality of that moment. So I never really thought about it in the moment where this would be a romance line for instance, Preston Garvey, or this is a romance line for Piper. You honored the situation. Now, the only thing that I can think of that would color the line would be their job, their mission, their quest, their position. What they had going on would be contained in the line sometimes. But sometimes it was just, this is just an honest statement, an honest request, or an honest flirtation. Now that you ask, and I'm thinking about it, there would be a different. I guess I would approach it a bit differently. My body would change if it was with one sex or the other. When I think of Piper, I think of just between the name Piper and how Cal described her as kind of like the badass Lois Lane, but she's got that dame quality, like, hey, how you doing there, sweetheart? Like that, and then I heard her voice, by the way, on that thing that they released.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, wow. It's just neat how it all works out, but I would respond differently from, my body would change. The images I would call up might change if it was like Preston versus Piper. You know what I mean? So, and the rest. So, it was, that's a really good question, man. I never even really considered that or thought about that in depth before. So well done, man.
There we go. And that's it, folks. That's all. Round of applause. Andy Burkowski. No, not at all. Okay. I just thought, hey, can't get better than that.
I got more time if you want, Andy.
When the talent says you're so great, that's usually when the interview runs out. But
seriously, that was a good question, man.
There we go. Well, again, it was great just to chat with you. I think the thing that everyone listening will really feel is that this was fun, that this was something you cared about, and that they're going to hear that when they play the game.
And the fun that I had and the care that I hope I handled, this role with, is dwarfed by. I love giving them shout outs. I know it sounds like I'm I'm being paid for each compliment or something, a nickel for every time you say something nice about Bethesda. No, it really is my passion for this job, this role, is dwarfed by the talent and the care and the design and the effort and the true affection for this lore, this universe, and the fans of this franchise. Todd Howard, man, I thank him every chance I get. I just thank Todd Howard every chance I get. Emil Pagliarulo, Will Shen, Mark Lampert, audio director. I mean, the list goes on. And I eventually want to share with the world as much of the credits as I could tweet out before they get to the end credits of their experience. But it really is, it's a job of a lifetime, man. It's a job of a lifetime.
Before, when I told the world that we'd be talking to you, I sent it out to Twitter, see what people have to say. And just in the, half hour, 40 minutes we've been talking, we got a bunch of questions. Some of them are absurd that we can't possibly answer.
I love the absurd questions.
Yeah, just like, how does it end? I already asked, man. I can't help you there. I wish. But if you don't mind, these are some fans directly that love this game that just wanted to know a little bit about it. So we'll start
I love the fans as well.
Oh, man, get ready. There's going to be a big influx. But let's start with number one. Is the first guy, as soon as I tweeted this out, he right away, right up on it, said his name is Miguel Mical, asking the question to you, Brian, are you anxious for the release? And if so, do you have an opinion of the game?
Yes. And yes.
Perfect.
My opinion is, and this I will confess a bias. I mean, I can't avoid a bias or a subjectivity to it, but I believe with every fiber of my being that it will show and you will feel that care that we talked about from Todd and the gang. I think that it will be undeniable. And any aspect of this game, I'm getting excited and I'm getting like overcome talking about it. Any aspect of this game that you feel, conflicted about or you wish was different, I believe that effort and that care and that execution that Bethesda accomplished will all but blow it away. Like the blast of an atomic explosion. It will just be overtaken. I mean, I'm serious. I know I'm being cute, but with my wording, but like I really mean that. Like that's my opinion of the game. That it is that love letter, that dystopian love letter to the fans, and I think I am very anxious. I'm not just anxious for the release. I really am anxious for the response, and even the angry trolled response, I have to respect. You know what I mean? Like that's a visceral reaction. Even if the troll loves the game, but they just want to hate fuck me with every fiber of their being, I gotta love it. I gotta respect it, and I gotta let it go, man.
Sir, you are opening yourself up for a lot right now.
You know what though? I'm going to be open up to it anyway, and I just. Everybody, deserves respect who's going to purchase this game. They're either going to purchase it, they're going to get it as a gift, and they put their money down, or they really, especially the Fallout community, the diehard fans. I mean, they're dedicated to this franchise. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I have nothing but affection and respect for those guys. So
excellent. All right, we got another question here from.
By the way, if you need me to hurry up, you just give me the high sign.
Oh, listen, hey. That's what computers are for, right? We'll be all right here.
Oh, cool.
My question was, not my question, the question here from @GusTechers, interesting one. Were there any descriptions of enemies that you found that you were told in the game that made you feel that they were actually terrifying? Are there some really scary wasteland creatures that you believe would be attacking?
Yes. I had not seen any of them. I played a little, like I said, I played a little bit of Fallout 3. And, and I don't even know if all of the creatures will make, I don't even know. They may switch it up. I know there's a couple of new creatures, but I don't know if all the creatures from Fallout 3 are going to be in Fallout 4. They may be. I'm ignorant to that. But I had not seen a Mirelurk. They described a fierce, terrifying thing. But like a Mirelurk scared the crap out of me, specifically when I went down to a riverbank and it came out of the water like the worst creature from the Black Lagoon ever. When I first saw a centaur in Fallout 3, the sound it made is the first thing I heard. And then when I saw it, it was like the worst nightmare. Human Centipede has nothing on that particular creature. And then in the gameplay footage, when I saw Deathclaw, I mean, it was like unbelievable. And then now that, I mean, there's super mutant behemoths who are just terrifying. I mean, there's going to be terrifying creatures. I mean, it depends on your sensibility. If somebody's into that, like they're pretty desensitized to, you know, every Christmas they watch all the Saw movies. Like, I don't know, like they may not be as scared as I am, or I will be, but yeah, there's terrifying creatures, definitely.
There we go. Another question here. There's a lot about romances, but we'll take one that you might actually be able to answer here from at Dustpelt, asking about the romances. He wants to know if you really were able to achieve that so hard to find flirty dialogue in a video game. Do you think you landed on that line where it's not too much, not too little, but just flirty? Odd question, but yeah.
No, it's a good question. It's actually a nice little subset question to what you were talking about. Mm-hmm. I believe we did. I mean, it's really up to the player, the gamer, to make up their mind, because everybody's line is different. You know what I mean? I could be too subtle where somebody else thinks I'm being too forward in the delivery of the line. So you never know. I do know that Cal took good care of towing that line, of walking that line between. I mean, sometimes we could venture into a little bit of like smarmy. Sometimes it was real subtle and just really sincere flirting. Other times it was a little bit of like, you know, nice shoes. You know what I mean? Like, it was, you know, we played with it a little bit.
Hold on, what was that last one? Maybe finish that one.
Nice shoes. Want to fuck? Like, you know. You know,
Fallout 4, ladies and gentlemen. Fallout 4.
Now listen, that's not a line. I'm just giving a feeling. That's not a spoiler. That's not a spoiler. But yeah, I believe we achieved it. But again, it's really in the hands of the gamer, the player, the real player.
Mm-hmm. And so many questions here, so many of them, unfortunately, you can't answer, or we already have. You know, he talked about how much he loved it. But one interesting question this guy asked a few times: did you say the word pizza or something that sounds close to pizza in the game?
Is this a question from a modder who wants to?
I think it is. I think it's someone that said, like, I want to be able to take this and make something funny with it. So I think he's getting ready. I had to ask. It's amazing.
No, it's fine. I accept any question. No question is off the table. If I can answer it, I'll answer it. If I can, I can. I'd love to hear it, though. I mean, I can't recall. I'd love to say, can't answer that, to keep his hopes up, but I don't recall saying it. That doesn't mean I didn't, but I don't recall saying that. Mm-hmm. I don't recall saying pizza or saying a guy's name Pete with a at the end. I don't remember saying anything close to pizza, but again, I can't really remember.
Mm-hmm. Do you plan on playing this game? You know, to have that dissonance of in the next week or so, actually jacking in and playing this game?
Absolutely. I'm going to play the game. And maybe to jump in, if you don't mind me following that up, you know, I get this question a lot. You know, will you play as the male or the female, or will you play first as the female because it would be too weird for your voice? Or are you going to play first as your voice or whatever? And you know, my go-to answer is that I've kind of developed with the help of the fans and the Twitter questions and stuff, is because I've spent 2.5 years with these people bouncing around my head, inside my head, I'm probably going to have a first playthrough as the player male voice, only because I'd kind of like to role play the role that I had in my head behind the mic for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to leave the game until I've played as the female player voice. I mean, Courtney Taylor is a superior voice performer, and her performance in this it's not going to disappoint. I mean, she's a badass. I mean, she is strong, and she has as a performer. From what I've heard, and you know, just testimony, second person or third party testimony from people that were in on the sessions, like Cal or whoever. I heard tell of her emotional depth that I can't leave the game. Cal, the voice director Cal, has this thing that like he was like jokingly angry at both of us for whatever we brought to the table has made him have to play the game at least 5 to 10 times in order to explore all these different things that Bethesda included in the game. So, I guess that's part and parcel. Yes, I'm going to play the game. Yes, I'm going to play as both sexes. And I'm really anxious to know what the fans think.
You talked about one of the big reasons you're going to play as yourself is because you had in your own mind that role-playing trajectory. You've said all these lines. From what you can share, what is that trajectory? Because like you said, there's so many different options. And for you, the voice of this character, how do you think you're going to play it? Are you going to be an A button guy, X button guy? What do you think? What was what you had in mind?
That's another great question. And I think it's going to be, and I never even thought about it until you bring it up. Man, you ask really, really great questions that I've never really thought about at this level. I was kind of role-playing. I was playing the role-playing game in that moment behind the mic saying each line. That's pretty deep, man. Way to go, Andy.
Listen, hey, we got a promo right there. Thank you very much.
I know, right? Way to go. Thank you, Andy. But what was my second half of that answer? I was talking about the role playing part.
Yeah, but you had something in mind, I guess, when you were.
Yeah. Forgive me. I made you wait. I made you remind me, and now I can't tell you. I know. The short answer is I'm not going to be just one thing. I'm definitely going to be whatever role I choose. It's going to be a real human being. In our lives, we make decisions that are dubious, morally duplicitous. We lie. We tell the truth. We say things to get what we want. We lie for what we believe are justifiable reasons, and we tell the truth to hurt people. All of those things are going to be included in my particular gameplay, only because, in the moment, nobody knows. I don't believe any player, no matter how much you say, oh man, I'm going to fucking play this game. I'm going to play as this motherfucking psycho that's just going to kill babies. Like, you can say that. You can say that you want to do that. But I believe that Bethesda's presented each and every gamer with a built-in kind of like, it's kind of like this. Okay, this is going to be weird. This is a tangent. It's probably going to be boring. If you want to cut it out, delete this part. But my wife and I both sat on juries at one time. And she sat on a criminal case. I sat on a civil case. And it's amazing. When she came home, she said, it really is amazing. You think there's going to be 12 deadheads on there, including yourself, and you don't give a shit, and you're going to go in there, and you're just going to vote, whatever gets me home sooner. And then you really sit through the trial, and there's this weird responsibility that kind of imbues your entire experience. And when you go into the jury room, you care, and you don't want to leave until, you assert, like, I believe my vote should be this way. I believe that's how it's going to be for every gamer, no matter how much you want to, pre-mold how you want to play the game. I think even the nihilistic, sociopathic psychopaths are going to find they're going to have decisions that they may grapple with. And I think that's the gift that Todd and Bethesda wanted to give. And that's what I'm going to do. It's not going to be just one thing. One person's A button is another person's B button. You know what I mean? So it's going to be different.
Absolutely, because it's the first time in this game, I think, when you really have a chance to do that. Many times there's that duality in most games of what's right or wrong. And what you're saying, from what you've been able to experience years in that booth, it's a lot more gray than that.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Especially with certain aspects of the game that I'm going to keep stum about.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time. If you're just listening in now, make sure you take the time to listen to this interview. It was great. Fallout 4, Soul Survivor, the voice, Brian T. Delaney. Final comment. Well, again, thank you so much, man. Really do appreciate it. I know a lot of people are really going to get a lot from this. What do you hope, happens for players in the next 2 weeks? You put so much of your heart and soul in this. It's a big part of you. What do you hope they get from all your hard work?
Oh, wow. I know this sounds like some sort of dodge or something, but man, there's so many people that put their hard work into this. It's just, I can't, it's beyond me. It really is. I mean, I'm really, I'm interested in seeing, I don't know. It's a difficult question for me to answer because there's just so much in this game and the music, the art direction, the overall direction. It's beyond words. Words are inadequate to describe what I hope the audience, the gamers that get the game, that play the game, the Fallout fans, the Fallout community at large gets out of the game. It's beyond a sentence. I can't even comprehend what I hope they get out of it because there's just so much. I hope they're as overwhelmed as I am answering this question. Sorry about that, man.
Not a worry. Well, thank you again so much. We're speaking with Brian T. Delaney, the voice of the Soul Survivor, followed for the main protagonist. The game coming out real soon. The Male, yes, of course.
The Male.
No, absolutely. We'll be
Male.
We'll be very fortunate as well later in the week to be speaking to Courtney. She couldn't make it work right now, but I'll make sure to play that clip that you said about how great she is and see if we can hear her blush.
She really is. I mean, wow.
Thank you again. This is Andy Burkowski for VGS.